Hi class, welcome to lesson 3.1. The objectives for this lesson are to solve two-step equations and then use deductive reasoning in order to help you solve those equations. When solving two-step equations, you first want to use the addition or subtraction property of equality to get the term with the variable alone on one side of the equation, which means we're going to either add or subtract the same thing on both sides of our equation in order to keep everything balanced. And then our second step in a two-step equation would be to use the multiplication or division property of equality to write an equivalent equation which the variable has a coefficient of 1. Okay, so basically we're undoing either multiplication or division that's happening to that variable. We're using the opposite operation there, and we can do that as long as we do the same to both sides of our equation. Okay, we can use the properties of equality to help us solve for the variable. So let's look at our first example. We have the equation 21 equals negative p plus 8. So the first thing, using our rules here, we're going to undo the addition or subtraction. In this case, we're going to get the variable by itself, and we're going to get rid of this plus 8. The opposite of adding 8 is subtracting 8. So the subtraction property of equality allows us to subtract 8 from both sides of the equation. If you want to think about this from last year, you probably played with the balances a little bit. We're keeping that equation balanced by subtracting the same number from both sides. So 21 minus 8 gives us 13. Okay, and then on the other side we're left with negative p because the plus 8 minus 8 gives us 0. Okay, so we're left with 13 equals negative p. Now we're not done because we want to solve for the variable. What is p? Not negative p. So we can divide both sides by a negative 1. Remember, this negative sign here is just like a negative 1 times p, if you want to think of it that way. We can divide both sides by a negative 1. Again, using the division property of equality, and now we have a coefficient on the right side of just p, because a negative 1 divided by a negative 1 gives us a positive 1. And on the left here, we have 13 divided by negative 1, which is negative 13 equals p. Okay, so hopefully this is a review for you. There are 3 quick check questions. You can go ahead and pause me on the next page. Please do those quick check questions when you think you're comfortable with something. Go ahead and restart this and check your results. If we look at the 3 answers to the quick check, let me just show you those. Okay, we've got y equals 5, x equals 243, and then x equals 3 here. If you have any questions or you can't find your mistake, please make sure you ask at the beginning of class tomorrow. Moving on to example 2. So now we've got a word problem. The word problem tells us that we are ordering iris bulbs from a catalog. The iris bulbs cost 90 cents each, and there's a $2.50 shipping charge. If we have $18.50 to spend, how many iris bulbs can we order? So the first thing we want to do is write an equation. So we're going to relate the cost per bulb times the number of bulbs we're going to order plus our shipping cost is going to equal the amount we spend. Okay, makes sense? If we use b for the number of bulbs, we can write the equation 0.90 b, so it's 90 cents times the number of bulbs, plus the 250 equals 1850, because this is how much we have to spend. So again, we're going to undo our addition or subtraction. In this case, we're going to undo the addition by subtracting $2.50 from both sides. If you want to think about it, we are going to have how much money to spend on bulbs, because whether we ordered 100 bulbs or 1 bulb, we have these shipping charges we have to pay for. So we're going to take that money away from the amount total that we have to spend, which was $18.50, and we're left with $16 is the amount we have to spend just on bulbs. Okay? So now, since we have 90 cents per bulb, and we have $16, if we divide both sides by 90, okay, and what happens here is the 90s cancel out. 90 divided by 90, 90 cents divided by 90 cents is going to be 1, or we're going to be left with 1b equals 16 divided by 90, which gives us 17.7b. Now, because this is a real world situation and we cannot order 0.7 bulbs, we're going to have to then round our answer to 17 bulbs is what we can, the maximum number we can order. Okay, moving on to the next page. We are looking at the example, and it asks us to use deductive reasoning. Okay, so we want to justify each of our steps. So the first step you're going to do is what? Look at the problem here. The first step is we're going to undo this 3 right here. Now, is this a 3 a positive or a negative? The 3 is a positive. So if you have $3, how do you get rid of it? You have to take it away. So our first step is going to be to take away 3 from both sides. Okay, it's a little counterintuitive to what you're probably used to looking at this, but you have to watch your signs carefully. The variable and the coefficient of the variable is not touched here. So we have this negative 5z. We don't do anything with that, and just because this is a negative doesn't mean this sign is necessarily a negative, okay? So we're going to subtract 3 from both sides because of our subtraction property of equality. That's my justification here. We take 3 away, and then we're left with a negative 5z equals 18. Or excuse me, 15, because we've taken the 3 away here. Now our final step is to undo the multiplication that's happening here by dividing both sides by a negative 5, and we get z to be negative 3. Now, if you're concerned about your answer, it's always a good idea to plug this negative 3 back in. Negative 3 here multiplied by this 5 and then the minus sign here is going to give us 3 minus a negative 15 or 3 plus 15, which does give us the 18. Again, we've got 2 more quick check problems here. You can pause, try the problems, and then turn this back on when you want to check your answer. Here is my equation. X divided by 2, because this was 4 more than half the runs scored by the opposing teams. So your high school baseball team scored 5 runs. This was 4 more than half the runs scored by the opposing team. How many did the opposing team score? So again, I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides, and then I'm going to be left with x divided by 2 equals 1. And then I'm going to undo this division by multiplying both sides by 2, and I'm left with x equals 2. Okay, I apologize for the loud Madden game going on downstairs. We have one more quick check, I promise, to get through. Our last example here, we're going to justify each step. Now notice here we have this 9 is a negative. You got to be careful with your signs here. And we're going to undo this minus 9 by adding 9 first. We're left with a negative 4m equals 12 because we added 9 to the 3. And then we're going to divide both sides by negative 4, and we're left with m as negative 3. Okay, you can plug that back in, check your work if you have any questions. Don't forget to bring your questions to class tomorrow. Thanks.